how much of our growth in Torah relies on knowing Hebrew, since there is so many sefers written that are not translated? And will Hashem instill the language Lashon HaKodesh in Olam Haba? So Sfat HaKodesh, the holy language, is a very valuable, very important, but not for someone that's in his early stages, because to learn what you need to do, to learn how to do it, to learn why you're doing it, could all be done in generally all of the biggest languages out there, whether it be English, French, Spanish, German. I mean, you have, and others, of course. You have the Torah, you have the Talmud, you have the Shulchan Aruch, or other books of halachot that are translated to countless different languages. And one of the mistakes that people make is that they think that in order for them to become what they want to be, they have to first learn Hebrew. This is a mistake, and I could even say it's a mitzvah from the Satan. Not that chas v'shalom you shouldn't learn Hebrew, but to make it a priority to learn any language, whether it be Hebrew or Aramaic or whatever other language you think you need in order to learn Torah, is a mistake. Why? Because although there is a special significance in reading the Chumash in Sfat HaKodesh and to praying in Sfat HaKodesh, in the holy language, to learn, meaning to know what's happening, to know why it's happening, to know what to do, it's important to learn it in the language you understand best. This is why we have Jews that wrote the Talmud. Part of it is in Aramaic, because that was the spoken language in those days. You have the Rambam writing in Arabic, many things. You have many of the other Chachamim write in different languages. And the point being is that what people make a mistake is that they think that in order for them to learn Torah, they need to know Hebrew. Yes, Hebrew is valuable, but it's not priority. There is a lot of other things you need to learn before you learn Hebrew. To learn the Hebrew takes time, takes experience, and it's not like Hebrew that the modern day Israel speak. It's Sfat HaKodesh, the holy language, it's a different language. It has similar letters, but it's a different language, and it takes time. And a person that's going to if he has unlimited amount of time, let's say a young kid that goes to yeshiva, that's in school for, 8, 10, 15 hours a day, yeah, he should learn Hebrew, he should learn Aramaic, he should learn a lot of things. Why? Because he's there all day. But someone that is a Baal Tshuva, is a professional, is someone that has a job and a family and really only has, let's say, an hour, 2, 3 hours a day to learn, should not spend their time learning Hebrew in the beginning. Perhaps after they've learned the basics for a few years, and maybe they want to take out of, let's say, if they maintained a 2 hours to 4 hours schedule steadily of learning Torah every single day, then they want to take, 20 minutes out of that day and dedicate to learning Hebrew, yes, that's fine. But for somebody to take their 1 hour a day of learning Torah and spend half of it on learning Hebrew, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. Why? Because you don't go to heaven for knowing Hebrew. There are plenty of people in Gehenom right now that speak Hebrew much better than I do. Okay, so it's knowing Hebrew is not going to get you to heaven. What's going to get a person to heaven is knowing Torah, to know what the Torah said. Now, when I mean Torah, it's both the written Torah and the oral Torah. So when a person is learning, for example, the Chumash, if you're an American, you're English speaking in the UK, in Australia, and other places that are Anglo-Saxon countries, you have pretty much the vast majority of the most popular books, Sfarim, have been translated to English. Vast majority, but a lot of them did. A lot of them did. I'm surprised that some haven't yet. But there is the biggest thing is the fact that you have the Tanakh, you have the Gemara in multiple languages. That's already more than half the battle. It's 75% of the battle, I should even say. And then, of course, you have a lot of Musar and a lot of other things in different languages. So, if a person wants to learn Gemara, I always tell people to go and learn art school. Unless you are a yeshiva bachur, you are a starting from scratch. As a little kid, you got into it. You got into the yeshiva system in the beginning, and you have all day and all night to learn. Yes, of course. Then go with your Rosh Yeshiva. He tells you to learn Aramaic and Hebrew and all the other languages. By all means, do it. But if you are getting into yeshiva as a teenager for the first time, or you are a Baal Tshuva in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is, for you to go learn Aramaic or Hebrew as the first thing is a mistake. And quite frankly, to learn Gemara from the actual traditional Gemara, if you haven't learned in many years or ever, it's a mistake. Learn it, with their first language. Meaning, learn if you're an English speaker, which a lot of people say, oh, well, I also speak Hebrew. Okay, buddy. A lot of people think they speak Hebrew, but in reality, all they know how to do is to make the sounds. They don't actually know what the words mean. Speaking Hebrew is not as simple as it sounds. And again, Sfat HaKodesh is not the same thing as conversational Hebrew. So it's to know whether you are what language you speak is what language you dream in. If you dream in English, that means your first language, your mother tongue is English. Either way, even if you're speaking Hebrew, typically, unless you are a Chassid, that was born into Chassidut and so on, typically your Hebrew is not, Torah Hebrew. It's not biblical Hebrew. So the point being is, learn the Gemara in your first language. If you're an English speaker, learn the Gemara in English. If you're a French or Spanish or whatever it is, learn the Gemara in that language. Don't force yourself to learn a language alongside learning the Gemara itself, because again, it's a mistake that a lot of people make where they force themselves to learn the Gemara in the Hebrew and Aramaic mix. And what ends up happening is that they go through an entire daf or two or three or entire masechet and have no idea what's going on. Why? Because they don't understand most of it. So it's the beauty of Gemara is if you understand it. The beauty of Halacha is if you understand it. It's not like the Zohar where there is a certain zgulot that even if you just read it, it creates a certain amount of kedusha and that's good enough. The Gemara is not like that. You need to understand it. You need to understand. Thereby, you need to read it in your first language. So, as far as Hebrew, I would not be concerned about it. If you're a Baal Tshuva that's within, at least, 5 years, within your first 5 years, I wouldn't consider it at all. I would consider a lot of other things before it. After 5 years, depends. Depends on how studious the person is, how much they spend, and so on and so forth. But it's even after 5 years, it's not a given. Why? Because again, there's so much to learn. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books that a person needs to learn. Learning Hebrew would just slow them down. And again, it's good, it's important, but it's not priority. And a person has to priorities. If a person has a lot of time on their hands, then it's a different story. It's a different story. But most people don't have, 5-6 hours a day that they learn Torah. Most people, you're lucky if you get, an hour of Torah from them. You're lucky. A guy that learns an hour a day, I wouldn't ask him to learn Hebrew at all. I would ask him to learn Torah instead. I would ask him to learn some more Musar. Maybe he'll find some more time, more than an hour. I wouldn't ask him to learn Hebrew at that stage. But either way, in regards to Torah, Torah is the priority, and it's the more a person shows Hashem that he loves to learn Torah, the more Hashem is going to open up their mind to understand Torah, to be able to learn more Torah in less time, to remember the Torah that they learn, to connect to it, to know how to apply it in their life, and not just theoretically, to instill it into their life. And B'ezrat Hashem, it's give them all of the tools that they need. And I promise you that if a person needs to know Hebrew, Hashem is going to make it so that they'll learn it, or they'll acquire it, when they need it. If they're dedicated to the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is obviously going to give them special privileges and special conditions, and not just in Hebrew, but in everything else in the world. So I wouldn't necessarily worry so much about the language. I would worry about making sure that I'm fulfilling the Torah itself. But again, it all depends on the amount of time that a person is studying, and also how long he's been doing or she's been doing tshuva. I would say that most people, for them learning, Hebrew is third, fourth, fifth, sixth on the priority list, and that's where it should be, because they have such limited amount of time and such limited amount of existing knowledge that they can't afford to go spend that limited amount of time they have to go learn Hebrew. You need to know how to keep Shabbat. You need to know how to keep kashrut. You need to know how to do a lot of things. And most people don't. So it's important to know those things. And, it's, again, Hebrew will come in its time.